Pablo Picasso is perhaps best known for co-founding Cubism, but what makes his story truly remarkable is not any single style. It's his willingness to abandon mastery and become a beginner over and over again throughout his 70-year career. In his early 20s, Picasso had already achieved technical mastery in realism. He could paint with precision and grace, but instead of settling into that success, he moved into his blue period, exploring melancholy and poverty with a completely different emotional palette. Then came the rose period, where he shifted again, painting circus performers and harlequins in warmer tones. Each time, he wasn't building on what he knew, he was dismantling it. When Picasso encountered African masks and Iberian sculpture, he didn't just admire them, he let them shatter his understanding of form and perspective. That willingness to be disrupted, to let go of what was working, led to the creation of Cubism alongside Georges Braque. Together, they fractured reality on canvas in ways that felt incomprehensible to audiences at the time. Critics were baffled, some were outraged, but Picasso kept moving. Later, he experimented with collage, ceramics, sculpture, printmaking, and even theater design. He returned to classical forms in his later years, not because he had forgotten how to innovate, but because curiosity pulled him there. He was never done learning. He was never finished exploring. What's striking about Picasso's life is not just his talent. It's his refusal to protect his identity. He could have stayed in any one of his successful periods and been celebrated for it. But he didn't. He chose discomfort. He chose uncertainty. He chose to be a novice again and again, because that's where the growth was. And this brings us to a question. What allowed Picasso to do that, when so many of us resist even small moments of uncertainty? What made him willing to risk looking foolish, to stumble, to be misunderstood? The answer lies in mindset, and more specifically, in what psychologist Carol Dweck has spent decades studying. Carol Dweck's groundbreaking research on growth mindset reveals something profound. The willingness to enter the unknown, to be a novice repeatedly, is the core ingredient of long-term development. Her studies show that people who believe abilities can be developed through effort, strategy, and learning from failure consistently outperform those who believe talent is fixed. But here's what often gets overlooked in popular discussions of growth mindset. Dweck's work also reveals something equally important. We cannot adopt a growth mindset until we are aware of the fixed mindset patterns already shaping us. Growth requires awareness. Awareness requires honesty, and this is where most people unknowingly get stuck. We don't simply resist growth in a straightforward way. We are run by inner characters, parts of our psychology, that protect us from the discomfort growth requires. These characters operate automatically, quietly shaping our choices before we're even conscious of them. They're not enemies, they're not weaknesses, they're protective mechanisms that developed for good reasons. But when they run unchecked, they keep us small. And until we see them clearly, until we can name them and understand their patterns, we remain stuck in a fixed mindset without realizing it. Research in narrative psychology and internal family systems has shown that during uncertainty, we don't simply have thoughts. We activate inner characters designed to protect our self-worth. These parts of us step in automatically, especially when we feel judged, exposed, or out of our depth. Let me introduce you to 4 of the most common characters that maintain a fixed mindset. As I describe each one, notice if you recognize them in your own experience. The protector is the part of us that has been conditioned to believe that failure equals danger. When uncertainty rises, the protector quietly tightens the boundaries of our life. It steers us toward the tasks we already know, the conversations that feel safe, and the work where we're unlikely to be challenged. The protector is the voice that says, don't stretch too far, don't risk being embarrassed, stay where you're competent. Its intention is safety. Its consequence is stagnation. The protector doesn't announce itself loudly. It operates through subtle choices. It's the reason you volunteer for the project you've done before, instead of the one that would teach you something new. It's why you stay quiet in the meeting when you have an idea that feels half-formed. It's the invisible hand that keeps your life predictable. And here's the thing. The protector developed for a reason. Maybe early in your life, taking risks led to harsh criticism or rejection. Maybe failure was met with shame rather than support. The protector learned that staying small kept you safe. It's trying to help. But what protected you once may now be the very thing preventing your growth. Then there is the perfectionist, who cannot bear the idea of being seen as anything less than flawless. This character delays starting, over-prepares, and polishes endlessly, not because excellence matters, but because imperfection feels intolerable. Research on perfectionism shows that it suppresses innovation and increases burnout. Studies have found that perfectionists are less likely to take creative risks, more likely to experience anxiety and depression, and often accomplish less than those who embrace imperfection. But the perfectionist doesn't care about these findings. It believes it is protecting your identity, not limiting your progress. The perfectionist convinces you that if you just prepare a little more, practice a little longer, refine it one more time, then you'll be ready. But ready never comes. Because the perfectionist's real goal isn't excellence, it's the avoidance of judgment. It would rather you do nothing than do something imperfectly. So projects sit unfinished. Opportunities pass by. You stay in preparation mode indefinitely because the gap between where you are and where the perfectionist demands you be feels unbridgeable. Meanwhile, others who are willing to be messy, to stumble, to learn in public are moving forward. The prover shows up with a different agenda. It wants evidence that you belong. It compares your progress with others, scanning constantly for signs that you are falling behind. It pushes you to perform competence rather than build capability. Instead of learning, the prover wants proof. Instead of growth, it wants validation. And when others succeed, the prover interprets it as a personal threat, as if their progress diminishes your own. The prover is exhausting because it turns everything into a test. Every conversation becomes a place to demonstrate how much you know. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to prove you're smart enough, skilled enough, worthy enough. But because the prover is focused on external validation, it can never rest. There's always someone doing better, achieving more, getting more recognition. And here's the trap. The more the prover pushes you to perform competence, the less you actually learn. Because learning requires vulnerability. It requires admitting what you don't know. It requires asking questions that might sound basic. It requires trying things you might fail at, and the prover cannot tolerate any of that. So you stay in the narrow band of what you can already do well, recycling the same skills, avoiding the edges of your competence where real growth happens. Lastly, the imposter appears when success feels accidental rather than earned. This character whispers that you've simply been lucky, or that others have overestimated you. It encourages you to work twice as hard, stay under the radar, avoid visibility, and hope no one notices the flaws it's convinced are obvious. Research on imposter syndrome shows it is most common among high achievers, especially in moments of transition, because the brain interprets new challenges as proof that competence might collapse. When you step into a role that stretches you, the imposter doesn't see growth. It sees exposure. The imposter tells you that everyone else in the room belongs there except you, that their confidence is justified, but yours is false, that they earned their seat at the table, but you snuck in. It dismisses your accomplishments as flukes and magnifies your mistakes as evidence of inadequacy. And so the imposter keeps you small in a particularly painful way. You might be succeeding externally, but internally, you're waiting to be found out. You're bracing for the moment when someone realizes you're not as capable as they thought. And that constant vigilance, that perpetual anxiety, drains the energy you could be using to actually grow. Each of these characters, the protector, the perfectionist, the prover, and the imposter, forms the backbone of a fixed mindset. Not because we lack ability, but because we are trying to protect identity. And here's the key insight. These characters aren't the problem. The problem is when we become them, when we let them run our decisions without awareness, when we mistake their voice for truth, rather than seeing it as one part of a larger system. Growth begins when we can name the character that steps forward and see the pattern instead of becoming it. So how do we develop this awareness? How do we begin to shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset in practice? First, start noticing when these characters appear. They show up most clearly in moments of uncertainty, challenge, or potential judgment. Pay attention to what happens in your body and mind when you're about to try something new. When someone offers feedback, when you're in a room full of people who seem more experienced than you, what thoughts arise? What sensations do you notice? Is there tightness in your chest? A voice telling you to play it safe? An urge to prove yourself? A fear of being exposed? These are not random reactions. They're signals that one of your inner characters has stepped forward. Second, get curious instead of critical. When you notice the protector steering you towards safety, don't shame yourself for it. Instead, acknowledge it. Oh, there's the protector. It's trying to keep me safe. When the perfectionist stops you from starting, recognize it. The perfectionist is worried I'll be judged for imperfection. This small act of naming creates distance. It allows you to see the pattern as something you're experiencing rather than something you are. And that distance is where choice lives. Third, thank the character and make a different choice. You might say internally, "Thank you, protector, for trying to keep me safe. I know this feels risky, but I'm going to take this step anyway." Or, "Thank you, perfectionist, for caring about quality, but I'm going to share this imperfect draft because feedback will help me grow." You're not fighting these parts of yourself. You're acknowledging their intent while consciously choosing a different path. Over time, this practice rewires the system. The characters still show up. They probably always will, but they no longer run the show. And finally, practice being a beginner. Deliberately put yourself in situations where you don't have the answers, where you'll stumble, where you'll have to ask for help. This is what Picasso did throughout his entire career. He chose discomfort. He chose uncertainty. He chose growth over the protection of his identity. Because growth isn't about never feeling fear or doubt or inadequacy. It's about feeling those things and moving forward anyway. It's about recognizing the inner character that's trying to stop you and gently, persistently choosing courage instead. Picasso once said, "I am always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it." He understood something essential. Mastery is not a destination. It's a practice of perpetual beginning, and the same is true for you. Every time you name the fixed mindset character that shows up, every time you choose growth over protection, you are training a new way of being. You are building the capacity to enter the unknown with curiosity instead of fear. This is the work, not to eliminate the protector, the perfectionist, the prover, or the imposter, but to see them clearly, to understand their patterns, and to make conscious choices about who gets to lead. Growth requires awareness. Awareness requires honesty. And when you're willing to look honestly at the inner character shaping your life, you open the door to becoming someone who, like Picasso, is never finished learning, never done exploring, never too afraid to be a beginner again. If this resonates with you, and you want to go deeper in breaking free of your conditioned patterns, beliefs, and behaviors, join the Change Mindset community. It's for the professionals, brave enough to question the old playbook. The Change Mindset community isn't for everyone. It is for those who feel the shift and know they need to adapt before disruption decides for them. Inside the community, we don't just talk about change, we train for it. Neuroscience-backed tools and real-world leadership coaching. This is for people serious about leading in the new world of work, not just inspiration. Subscribe to this channel for powerful insights on navigating uncertainty, leading yourself with clarity, and building a mindset built for change. Then visit www.changemindset.co and take our free Change Mindset quiz, 15 self-reflective questions to see if you're ready. Remember, change waits for no one.